Good evening, sir, and welcome to our restaurant. How many? One, please. Okay. Do you know what you want to have to order? Yes. I'm going to have some crow with a side of humble pie. All right. The scholarly accents aside, I think you know what my point is. Couple weeks ago, I was saying Syracuse didn't belong in the NCAA Tournament. They hadn't done enough. They had a losing record in the ACC. Plus, they bowed out of the ACC tournament in the second round. You know what? It's almost like deja vu from a couple of years ago, if you know what I mean. I thought 2 years ago that SU didn't belong in the NCAA tournament. And look what happened. They made that improbable run to the Final Four. And guess what? It's almost like 2 years ago all over again. I mean, I was saying, hey, they didn't belong. And when they got in instead of Notre Dame last week, I'm like, are you kidding me? Boy, I seem to be eating the humble pie big time right now. Boy, they are on another one of those runs. Yes, big win in the first four over Arizona State. Then they went up against their familiar foe from his days coaching Pittsburgh. Now he's coaching TCU, Jamie Dixon. And they wind up beating TCU. And then they get into the second round against another coach that has a long history, Larry Izzo. But it seems as though Syracuse seems to have the Spartans' number. Because guess what? A big 55-53 win over a team some people pegged maybe to go all the way. So guess what? Syracuse is now in the Sweet 16. And you know what a surprise that is. And I mean, a lot of people say, oh, he's too old. And even when I've seen him in interviews this year, he's looked tired. He's kind of looked a little run down. But it looks to me like, hey, Boeheim can still outcoach anybody he goes against. We're now in the Sweet 16, and let's keep it rolling. Because guess who's ahead? It's Mike Krzyzewski and Duke. You know, last month we went down there to those Cameron Crazies, down there to Krzyzewskiville, and Duke won by 20. But you know, Boeheim is doing another one of his great coaching things, and it seems as though he can outcoach anybody now. But can he outcoach his friend and rival, Mike Krzyzewski? Because Duke is a pretty powerful team, and now Duke has kind of become the favorite with all of the upsets that have happened in the NCAA tournament. You know, it's been an amazing run. Could we maybe make it to the Final Four? Well, you know, this run to the Sweet 16 has guaranteed me another show this year. We might as well make the most of it. Can it be like 2 years ago when we beat Gonzaga and Virginia to get to the Final Four, only to lose to North Carolina? Well, we'll see what happens. We gotta get past Duke, and then in the regional final, it'll either be Kansas or Clemson who we'd play if we got past Duke. Of course, there's wishful thinking. Let's make it to the Final Four, Orange. This is an amazing run. And speaking of the whole NCAA tournament, how crazy is it? Boy, upset city. A lot of big ones dropping by the wayside. The biggest one happening with a team that has a nickname of a docile dog. Maryland, Baltimore County, becoming the first 16 to upset a 1, knocking off our old friends from Virginia in the first round. Of course, that's not the others. The others are North Carolina losing in the second round, Xavier losing in the second round, UB knocking off Arizona, who's a team under fire. and also another great Cinderella, Loyola of Chicago, who's won on 2 last-second baskets to make it to the Sweet 16. And who doesn't love Loyola's chaplain there, Sister Jean, 98 years young, praying those guys on to the Final Four. Her faith and determination and love for those kids have helped them and has helped her become a media star. 98 years young, still sharp as a tack, and being the team's chaplain. Definitely big time, you know. Of course, Maryland, Baltimore County did lose in the second round to Kansas State. Of course, in that bracket, you gotta wonder about John Calapuke, because Kentucky has also made it to the Sweet 16. Kentucky maybe is the favorite to advance out of that bracket. Boy, would I love it if Kansas State could knock them off. You know, it's been upset city. And of course, who would want to fill out a bracket anyway? You know, chances of getting through with a perfect bracket are almost second to none. Because, you know, after what happened with Maryland, Baltimore County beating Virginia, all the brackets busted. Interesting NCAA tournament, and that's why they call it March Madness, because it has been madness. Now, I mean, with the Sweet 16 beckoning, 2 number 1 seeds down, 2 still there, a.k.a. Villanova and also Kansas. But you gotta wonder, can they be busted as they head on towards the Final Four? It's been a great NCAA tournament, an exciting NCAA tournament. Let's go Cuse, and let's see what happens. Any more brackets gonna be busted? Sweet 16 brackets. As you know, nobody's gonna win big money. I'm gonna stop talking about that and talk about Buffalo. Yeah, some pretty interesting moves free agent-wise. They made a couple good signings, made a couple good trades, especially Star Lutulelli. I think that's how you say his last name, signing to help the defensive line. And also making their case for maybe signing a quarterback, especially signing A.J. McCarron from Cincinnati. Of course, he brings Miss Alabama up to Buffalo with him. And you know, everybody started making jokes about her, especially in the afternoon on 95.1, Kimberly and Beck, saying, oh, she's a looker. Well, you know what? Don't look at her. Look at him. Maybe he can help the Bills. Of course, he's probably the bridge quarterback. Since when did he put up cantilever spans and girders, if you know what I mean? Of course, Bean is probably positioned the Bills to maybe make a little bit of a swap on draft day with some of those picks to move up to number 2. Because the Jets fired a shot across the bow, moving up to number 3 in the tournament. Can the Bills maybe package a deal to get the Giants as number 2 pick? We'll see. A lot of interesting quarterbacks, a lot of interesting strategy as we head towards the towards the draft. Of course, I'm thinking about all the upsets. I've got the tournament on my mind. Who knows? We'll go from that to talking about sort of a bummer of a thing. Toys R Us is announcing they're closing all of their U.S. stores. And you know what? That's sad, especially for ones who remember all the commercials, especially with Jeffrey the Giraffe. And you know, who doesn't like toys? But of course, with kids now putting their faces into cell phones and that and everything, plus getting games online, the brick and mortar stores are having a lot of trouble. But I mean, Toys R Us, iconic brand, sad to see it go. But one brand that kind of went out of business 9 years ago is maybe making a comeback. K&B Toys is thinking of making a comeback, putting stores in place. Interesting. But of course, You go into one of those stores, you're like a big kid all over again. Who doesn't like toys? And last but not least, what about Cynthia Nixon announcing her candidacy for governor of New York to challenge Andrew Cuomo? Yes, that one of the stars of Sex and the City may be becoming the next governor of New York. Very interesting. Is she gonna have her pals with her if she wins the governorship? Well, do one thing if you become Governor Nixon. Get rid of the SAFE Act. I'm Ken Haas, and that's my story for this week. And let's keep it going to the Final Four, Cuse.